What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, y'all, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod. I am also on YouTube and TikTok at March 4th Pod. The link tree with all of my stuff is in the podcast description for this episode. So that means if you made it here, then you found us somehow. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to check out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. How is everybody doing, man? I hope that life finds you well as you are listening to this episode and it's hitting your eardrums, whether you're in the car, whether you're hammering through some spreadsheets at work, whether you're in the gym, whatever you're doing. I appreciate you joining me for another episode of March 4th. It's been a fun journey, and we're just getting started. It's wild to think about how time flies. I talk about it a lot on this show. But the older I get, man, the more grateful I am for the people who I have in my life, who I can count on my hands, my ride or dies, who I really love. So to all of my family and my close friends, not just for the support that you have shown me with this show, but just in my life in general, in my 37 years. I am eternally grateful to all of you. And I just want all of you to know how much I love and appreciate all of you. And I want to let all of you listening to know, even if we've never met, how loved and appreciated you are, not just because you're listening to this goofball, but just to know, man, that you are worthy of all of your heart's desires. You are worthy of your dreams. Dream big, dare to fail, be good to people, be good to yourself. And life will unfold, man. And there's going to be ups and downs. It doesn't mean if you're a good person that there's not going to be speed bumps along the way, that there's not going to be curveballs, man, that there's not going to be some gnarly stuff that happens. But at the end of the day, if you stay true to your character and you stay true to yourself, you will get through it, and you will be a better person, for it. And one of the biggest things that I've had to learn over the past few years is really kind of transmuting darkness into light, and taking negative energy and difficult things that I went through and finding a positive outlet for those things. Therapy has been incredibly helpful for me. I would encourage anybody, if they can do it, to do it, because it is very, I think, beneficial to speak to like an outside third party, who's a professional who can help you work through things and kind of talk through things in a different way than maybe even your closest family and friends could. And I would encourage you again to just dream. None of us are without our faults or our darker sides or our shadow sides, our negative attributes. That's what makes us human. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And at the end of the day, though, don't ever think that you're too much. For the right people, you'll never be too much. And so, yeah, that was just kind of a stream of consciousness to start this. I just had a chance to unwind in the mountains and clear my head, and spend some time with my mom, and take a vacay, and just kind of get out in nature. And I don't get a chance to spend a ton of time with her or a lot of my family, unfortunately, because just living in different parts of the country and working full time and just being an adult, as it were. So we had a chance last year to go to the mountains with my sister before she had my nephew Victor, and that was great. So even though we missed her this trip, it was great to kind of get back and get in nature a little bit. Unfortunately, it was pretty rainy, but it was still nice to chill and watch movies at the cabin and just like unwind and just kind of detox from regular life for a little bit. It's always good to kind of get away from things, man. And nature's an incredible reset. So maybe that's what's led to sort of this stream of consciousness to start this bad boy. But it all ties into this week's episode, y'all, and that's kind of why I started on this train. Because if you are new to March 4th, the meaning behind the name is perseverance and moving forward. Mental health is central to this podcast. I've not shied away from, you know, talking about my mental health struggles on this podcast and, how it affects me as a human, how it affects me as a man, dealing with my own insecurities as a result of that, and feeling like at times feeling unlovable or at times feeling that I'm not enough. And, through therapy and, close relationships with my ride or dies who I can really count on like one hand, and just working on myself, I've gotten to a much better place. But on this show, we like to explore those themes of mental health, be they anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and it's all done out of wanting to take people from the darkness to the light and understanding that those difficult things, those difficult things we go through in life, or things about ourselves that we don't like or that we struggle with. It's what makes us human, and if we can find a healthy outlet for them, then that's a beautiful thing. And oftentimes, on this show in particular, it's music. I love music, so selfishly, I have a lot of musical guests that come on this show, and for a lot of musical artists, not to speak for people that aren't me, because I try to only speak for myself, but it's true. Music is a very cathartic outlet, obviously, for a lot of people, especially the people who make the music. And this week's guest is an artist that I actually came across via Instagram, and we talk about that on this show. They are none other than Talking Point. If you love emo and hardcore, you will love these guys. They're from Fort Collins, Colorado, and in particular, on this episode, we got Jaren Samples, who does vocals and rhythm guitar in Talking Point. And Talking Point kind of formed a few years ago, put out an EP, and just back on October 3rd, they put out their album, The Beautiful Things, The Cold Brings. So as this is hitting y'all's ears, it'll literally be out just 1 month. And it's a beautiful record. I saw an ad that these guys did on Instagram, and because I'm such a music nerd and I love music and rock and roll and indie and hardcore and metal so much, these guys came up on my timeline, and I heard a little snippet and I loved it, and I marked my calendar and was like, I can't wait to listen to this full length. And so I just decided to shoot my shot, man. Another one of those things in life, like just take the shot, and reached out to these guys and just said, hey, man, I really loved the record. I was hooked, and if you'd love to come on the podcast, I'd love to speak with you. And Jaren and I had a great conversation. If it wasn't super obvious in the title, the beautiful things the cold brings, there are themes of mental health on this record, of grief on this record, um, of kind of self exploration. Some of my favorite tracks are "Time," "Count Me Out," "One Day." A lyric that we talk about on this podcast, Jaren and I, the one that really hit home for me, especially somebody who struggles with anxiety, is "I'm the ghost that haunts me the most," which is said on the song "Count Me Out." This record also has appearances from Copper Teeth, Silver and Gold, Eyes of Salt, Bitchflower. It's just a great front to back listen, man. So, like I said, if you're a fan of emo, hardcore, punk, indie, alternative, rock in general, and just really heartfelt lyrics and emotional lyrics that are very introspective and um, very poetic. Like it was just so cool to get a chance to talk to Jaren on this one about those lyrics and about this record. And I think, exploring themes of grief and mental health are things that we all can relate to, especially if you're listening to this show right now. So without further ado, I'm going to shut my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with Jaren Samples of Talking Point. Here it is. All righty. Well, there we go. Well, Jaren, thank you so much, dude, for taking the time. Like we were talking before the jump, discovered y'all on Instagram, and really enjoyed the beautiful things the cold brings, man. And happy to get you on the show. So thank you for being kind enough to join me, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I'm stoked to be a part of it. Stoked to talk about the record a little bit as well too, and stoked to get to know you because I don't yet. So I'm stoked on that.
Likewise, brother. So just as kind of a place to start. So the beautiful things the cold brings. It just came out October 3rd, and I actually want to say this for anybody listening because I know sometimes people might be have some trepidation about like either whatever it is they're doing creatively or like self promotion. Like I know I struggle with that sometimes, but this conversation is happening as we were just discussing because I discovered you guys through an Instagram ad that you guys had done to help promote this record, and I heard that intro riff to Time, and just being a Midwest dude. I mean, I'm a metalhead at heart, but I love me some Midwest emo, and I heard that reverb and that guitar riff, and I'm like, yo, like these guys got me hooked, and I followed you. So to anybody listening who's a whether you're trying to grow your podcast or trying to grow your music, like don't shy away from trying to promote it beyond just word of mouth, man, because you know, if you get the right targeting, it'll work. And so this is how this conversation happened. But yeah, just as a place to start, Jaren, um, how long have you been doing things with Talking Point? And then also I love to ask people just how they got into music.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So Talking Point started like back in COVID, honestly. I had been kind of messing around with like some acoustic ideas. And then Ryan, our drummer, heard one of the ideas that I put on like an Instagram clip. And he was like, "Man, this is sick. This rips." And then sorry, I've been talking all day, so my voice is tired. Um, but he was like, "Man, this rips, and like we should definitely do something with this." And so we got together and we kind of did like a first practice. We had all been playing in different bands in the hardcore scene. So I was previously playing in this band called Wolf Blitzer. Ryan and our bass player Billy were playing in this band called Deadbeat, and they were like a super sick, like straight edge, classic kind of straight edge punk band. And yeah, and things were kind of slow during that time period with both our bands. So we got together, and we started kind of messing around with what we thought was going to be like a pop punk band. And so if you listen to like our first EP, it's a lot more like upbeat, I guess is what you would call it. And we actually just live demoed those songs as well too. So just like straight shot them and then put vocals on top. But yeah, that was kind of how it got started. We just jammed on some acoustic ideas that I had, tried to make it sound like balance and composure was like the goal, and then we quickly realized that like we're all like hardcore dudes, so there's gonna be like some two-step in it no matter what we do. It's just like in our nature. And then a little bit along the way, there's like this music. Studio kind of place where we're all based out of in Fort Collins. Um, that is like a collective for like musicians, and they have like practice rooms and stuff like that that you can like rent out. You pay like a membership fee, and then you get to book the rooms. And then their whole goal is to like connect people together. And so one of the main like uh, people that were there running kind of the show connected me with this guy named Matt because I was trying to learn about more of like the music industry, and I got coffee with this guy. We really connected, and then kept trying to get him to come jam with us because he played guitar as well too. Um, and eventually, like he finally was like, "All right, yeah, like this is pretty sick." After me sending him probably like 50 phone recording demos, and he joined the band pretty recently, about like a year ago. And then we were already in process of recording "The Beautiful Things the Cold Brings," but he played like the piano parts on one of the interludes. Um, and then we're already working on new stuff with him as well, that we're pretty stoked on. But yeah, that's kind of the short and sweet story of how we started, how we all know each other.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. Yeah, I know with just with having artists on over the years, like it is hard to keep bands together, but at the same time, sometimes like a beautiful thing can come out of like the ashes of something else. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you were able to link up with other people and turn it into talking point because the record turned out great. And I did go back and listen to Winter Demo 2023 and enjoyed it as well. But yeah, you could hear the change, like the difference, which is cool.
Yeah.
Um, but for you, dude, and thanks again, Jaren. So what's like your earliest musical memory, man? Like if you could go back through the Rolodex in your mind, like was there a hook? Was it in your family? Like what got you going from being like somebody who just really loves and listens to it to somebody who's like, I want to play music and be a musician.
Yeah, so like my mom has played piano my entire life. And I remember that I would wake up to like the sound of piano being played and her practicing for stuff. And so music has always been like a part of my life since I've been born. But I specifically remember when me and my buddy Steven were hanging out, we were probably like 11 or 12. And we were just hanging out with each other constantly. And he had gotten a guitar, um, and we were gonna just make a band together because we thought it would be fun. And I was supposed to get a bass guitar, I think if I remember right. And it did not work out that way. And I had an acoustic guitar that I had been trying to learn on, but I hated playing the acoustic. It like hurt my fingers and it was hard to press down. The action was like super high. It was like one of those like old like 80s guitars, like where you just have to press on it really hard. And I was like, this is not fun. And I remember that I went on like a family trip and there was like this distant cousin relative that I've never met before. Um, and somehow he knew that I was trying to learn guitar. And he had a Fender Stratocaster. And he just gave it to me for some reason, which is kind of like there's always these critical things that happen in your life that you're not really that much in control of. It's like the trajectory that changes, like, where you're supposed to go. And so I got this electric guitar for free. And then I started taking lessons and just messing around with it. And I was like, whoa, this is like 50 times better than the acoustic guitar. And I would lock myself in my room and just play for hours and hours and hours. And that's kind of where my guitar journey began. And then me and my buddy Steven would make like if you remember the audio program like Audacity, we would record like really boshy songs and stuff in Audacity. And yeah, and then my brother learned how to play drums as well, so I would jam with my brother constantly all the time. And then yeah.
Well, shout out to the family relative hooking you up with the Strat as like the first real guitar. That's pretty sick. And yeah, I know what you mean about the action on like the old acoustics because my dad um I mean he's had it since I was a little guy. And those are some of my earliest musical memories. They're like he's good with his hands, but he's also good with like electronics and like hooking stuff up. And
Yeah.
he's one of those dudes where I will spend 5 hours doing something myself instead of hiring or asking for help. It's just kind of like that generational, like, I'm gonna figure this out, which I appreciate the industrious kind of aspect of that. But so he always had like in our family room, or our living room, the family entertainment center. Young kids are probably gonna be like, what's an entertainment center? It's what we used to call it in the 90s. But he had like two cabinet speakers that sounded nice on each side of it and like he had a nice record player and a nice CD player. So like I remember um like Tom Petty, like Free Fallin' to this day is still one of my favorite songs because
Oh, same. That song rips.
oh yeah, so good every time. It never gets old. Like lyrically, the riff. Because I think that record came out in '89 and I was born in '88, so it kind of makes sense that he was listening to that. And then also there was an Eric Clapton album that came out that same year. I think it was Journeyman, maybe. Um, and Bad Love was on that one. Breaking Point, like it had like an 80s kind of produced vibe because it was the 80s,
Yeah.
so like I remember those are some of my earliest musical memories, but his acoustic guitar, like you're talking about, the strings were really high off the fretboard. So when I started kind of getting more into music, like especially around like 9, 10, 11, and after him and my mom got divorced, I would always, screw around. Sometimes I drop the pick like in it and I'd have to like shake.
Yeah, yeah, you're doing the shake.
But having a strat early on, that's awesome, man. So you mentioned hardcore. So as far as your musical taste then, Jaren, like were you pretty early into that scene or did you kind of graduate into it? Like what was some of the earliest stuff you were getting into when you were learning how to play?
Yeah, so I like grew up in the church, like I think probably a lot of people in the South and like in the Midwest. Um, and with that, there were these CD stores or like these bookstores called like Lifeway bookstores, and you could go into the Lifeway bookstore and they would have these like sampler CDs. And so like some of the first bands that I really liked were kind of like the rip off like Blink 182 bands like Relient K or like Hawk Nelson, like those kind of bands. Um, and then I remember going into this Lifeway bookstore and picking up like a I think it was like a Flicker Rocks Harder kind of like compilation CD, or maybe it was like a This Is Tooth and Nail CD. And on it, there was like a band called Mortal Treason. And they were kind of just like a typical, like, kind of like metalcore, like deathcore kind of band where they just played like a breakdown the whole time and I was like, this is insane. And then I found Under Oath, and it was when their first album had came out, like the one with like When the Sun Sleeps on it, and I bought that CD on the internet, I think, and got it like delivered to my house, which was also insane. Um, and I had like my little Walkman CD player. Um, and I was like probably like 12 or 13. And it was incredible. Still to this day, every song on that album is a masterpiece. And then the other band that I really gravitated towards was a band called As Cities Burn. The Sun I Loved You at Your Darkest album still to this day is a 10 out of 10, just absolute masterpiece. Um, and then from there, I would just listen to CDs like in the bookstores and try to find um, albums that looked cool because you would look at the artwork first and you'd be like, oh, this one looks cool. So you would pick it up and then you would put it in the little like sample player thing that they had and then put like the bocce headphones on. And then you could listen to it for a little bit and you could be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, this rips. I'm going to buy this. Um, and I still remember buying CDs that were like freshly wrapped and like taking the wrap off, and then you're opening it and it has that like really specific plastic smell. And then you're looking at the booklet first before you put it in to just see all the artwork and stuff. And then you finally put the CD in and you decide whether you like it or not within like 3 songs, but you have it forever. And that's kind of also what I miss a little bit about how music is now with like everything being digital. Like you can decide if you like something within 30 seconds. And then there's also so much that's there that the journey of discovering something new is taken away a little bit.
Dude, you're taking me down memory lane, Jaren. Like for real. Like I remember when you would get CDs, yeah, it was like a task to get it open. And then I'd see the guys at the record store who would just do like that swipe thing. They would
Yep.
just put it on like a straight edge and just pull it right apart. You're like, it was like magic. You're like, dude,
Yeah, yeah, because you're trying to get that one specific corner spot like cranked open.
Yeah, yeah. You'd always have that one. And then if you got the one, it was almost similar to like a pack of gum. It's like, all right, I'm gonna work this corner, but then you realize it's not the one on the top, it's the one underneath, and it just starts
Yep.
building. You get a little tiny piece off, and then you're like, okay, I got a little piece off now. And then you would just try to just pull it apart. And then you'd finally get the plastic off, and it always had the tape like over the top part of the CD that had like the album name and the artist on it when it was in the store. So then you'd have to peel that guy off. But it's funny you mentioned like the specific plastic smell because as you said it, I'm like I can smell it.
Yeah, it was coming back to me as I was describing it, and I was like, man, the plastic, it's very specific.
It's wild, man. Yeah, it's and yeah, driving even too. I realize now, like maybe because I was younger, I just didn't think of it. But like, if you had a solo road trip that you were doing, you'd have the Case Logic. Shout out to Case Logic, free plug. I don't know if they're still around or not with everything being digital, but you'd open up the CD booklet and you'd have to. That's why I was like, if somebody had like an aftermarket radio or they had like a 6 disc CD player, I had
Yep.
that Ford Fusion and I had to get rid of it because it would get stuck so much, like the 6 CD changer. It was like an '07 Ford Fusion. And then I remember when my buddy's friend put in the new radio for me. I was working in retail at the time and I
Hmm.
got I got I think it was a Pioneer one. And I got it like super cheap discount because it was like, you know, outdated or whatever, or like the new one
Yeah.
had and when he put it in, he was like, dude, do you realize? He goes, yeah, when I took out that old CD changer, he was like, there was like two of them like at the bottom of it. I remember I had put a few in there and I'm like, I think it got stuck, but like, you know how like it happens and you're like, I don't know, did I, you start questioning yourself, did I actually put that CD in there? So I had to like burn copies of a few actual CDs that I bought because they had gotten stuck in there. But yeah, it was an experience with the CDs. And in fact, I still have my whole CD collection.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, I have my like really botchy burned CDs that I made of like Emery, like The Week's End, and like Pianos Become the Teeth burned CD. Also, I think I have like a Lydia one. Also, it's crazy. But I remember too, if you had like a really crappy Walkman and you stuck the CD in, when you would go over bumps, like the CD would skip.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's wild. I think I might still have my first Walkman somewhere. I remember when I got in 8th grade, a silver one, and part of the advertising I think for that one was that it was like no skips. Um, but it still exists somewhere. And then something that made me feel really old is that I've been seeing um on my Instagram algorithm, I believe in the Smithsonian now, they actually have like there's like a music section and they have a CD player in a case of like this is how people used to listen to
Oh
music.
no.
Like, dude, I'm not that old, y'all. Don't do that to me,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
big rip. Yep.
Uh,
Do you remember Zune?
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Because when I used to work at the hospital, when I was a supply tech, so we would like replenish the stock rooms and stuff with all the medical supplies and so before I had a smartphone, that's what I would do. I'd have to make sure my iPod was all charged up. And then yeah, Microsoft had the Zune was like their rival to it. But theirs like I think their whole thing was like you can play any MP3, right? Like I think I
Yeah, it was like anything, and you didn't need iTunes, and you could just like load it up. But I remember people would have like Zunes, and I would be like lame, like because I had an iPod.
I know, isn't it wild? And then like years later, I remember before I got my car that I had now, I still had that Fusion with the CD player, but I because I had the aftermarket one, it had the USB port. So then
Yeah.
I was trying to put as much as I could because the iPod, like I still have my iPod from like 2000 and when did I get that? 2007, like my freshman year of college. It's probably all sticky and nasty now because I've left the cover on it for so long to protect it because I would drop it. But I was like, man, I really want to transfer this stuff so I can listen to it in the car. Um, but there's only so much you can fit unless you get like a terabyte on like one little flash drive. But then also I discovered like that format. I think that iTunes had, it would only like you could play it in on certain things, but like if it wasn't, I think with my CD player, it had to be either WAV or MP3. So if it
Yeah,
wasn't
it was weird. Yeah, it was like AAC or something because you would try to take the songs off of like other people's iPods and they wouldn't work either. Like they had it figured out.
taking me back down memory lane, man. Well, that's cool though, like that you had similar experiences because yeah, that was it was a ritual, like you said with the artwork, listening to the record, reading the lyrics as you would listen to it. It was a really intimate experience, but I'm it's cool to see, and I've even gotten into collecting vinyl. Um, it's cool to see. I feel like and again, I'm not old. I'm in my late 30s, but like it seems like the younger people have latched on to figuring out, hey, it's cool to have like something to hold, whether
Yeah.
it's CD or a vinyl. And so I think it's cool that bands are doing that, because it seems like the it's stuff always goes away and comes back, and it seems like now it's morphed into like CDs have kind of become obsolete. Some people still do them, which I think is cool because like I still have a Sony CD player in my living room because those speakers kick ass. They still work really well. Um, but it is cool to see people wanting the tangible thing if the bands can afford to do it because making vinyl ain't cheap, like and usually you got to order like 100 or something with a lot of these distributors. It seems like to even for them to even do it.
Yeah, the lead times are crazy too. It's just like insane.
So for y'all, man, bringing it up to speed, and thanks again, Jared, for the time and for going down memory lane, brother. It's you're taking me back, man. I almost want to like listen to the get the case logic out, but so the beautiful things the cold brings, that just came out on October 3rd. Um, this is going to be hitting people's ears in early November, so it's only going to be about a month after the release. But like I said, I came across y'all, so if there's any cross pollination of any other bands or artists that watch this, don't think that there's anything wrong about trying to promote your stuff, man, because it works for people who really you'll find your people. And like I love music, and I like I said at the jump, I saw that ad come across that promoted post and saw the artwork, and it hit me immediately because like one, I'm from the Midwest, and I'm definitely not an audiophile when it comes to what a lot of people reference as Midwest emo now, but there are bands in that space that I really love, and I love emo music, and I love metal music. I love alternative, uh, balance and composure. Big fan. Um, so I saw the artwork and I saw the title and I heard that riff, that intro riff, man, to Time, and I was like, man, this is speaking my language, and it was like the perfect teaser. So I noted it, and then when the record came out, I listened to it front to back, and I think there were some songs on there that you guys had out before the record was totally put together, but man, it was a great front to back listen, dude. Shout out to Copper Teeth, Silver and Gold, Eyes of Salt, Bitchflower, who are on some of these songs, dude. But I hate picking favorites because I genuinely love it as a front to back listen. The three
Yeah.
that really stuck out to me, I loved One Day, Time, obviously. That was the one that hooked me in. And then Count Me Out, the part where, the lyrics are I'm the ghost that haunts me the most. Really resonated with me because I can kind of be my own worst enemy sometimes with anxiety. So there's not a question in there, man, other than kudos. It turned out awesome. But I will stop ranting now and just ask you, like, what was it like to put this bad boy together and kind of that title of the beautiful things the cold brings.
Yeah, yo, yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate the words. Um, I mean, the all the songs are kind of like a cohesive examination of like a different portion of, grief essentially, and how like when you're going through different feelings and different places, it can feel almost overbearing, but at the same time, there's a sense of relief also. And so, within the musical element as well as within the lyrics, tried to capture that. oppressive feeling of like feeling like something is following you, something is like crushing in on you, but then at the same time having that beautiful kind of sparkle and that twinkle that's there as well, that it's not all bad. And that's kind of the basis of the beautiful things that the cold brings, because it tags on the second part of that line. Plant flowers in the spring, so they'll bloom in the storms that winter sings. And it's all about, hey, like when times are good, plant flowers, like when the sun's out, so that when times get bad and times are hard, you have something to look at and something to remember that, oh, okay, yeah, this is just a phase. This is going to pass. It's not going to be, a forever thing. And each song is kind of a different way of processing that same idea, and then it's just reiterating over and over, because I find that in my life, especially when I'm trying to work through something, um, it's usually the same thought that I'm thinking over and over, but I'm trying to tackle it in different ways, because it comes on in so many different ways, and in so many different spaces as well.
I appreciate you sharing that, man, because yeah, grief, it's powerful and it's also inevitable as much as, we don't enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like death is part of life. You're gonna lose people that you love, uh, pets, relationships and friendships, bands break up, like there's always going to be a level of sadness to life. It's just part of the ebb and flow of life. And what I've learned is like, and maybe it sounds dumb to say, maybe I'm being too hard on myself, but it's like, you never know how you're going to handle something until you actually go through it yourself. And so when it comes to grief, like that's what I've found. In the last few years on a personal level have been challenging, and that's been a very powerful theme in my life, and that's probably why I connected with this record so much. Um, Before you even told me what it was all about, because yeah, it's like you try to find yourself within the sadness, within the loss that you're experiencing, and there's good days and bad days with it, but I think having an outlet, like a healthy outlet for it, is really important. Beyond having like obviously people that you can count on to listen to your vent when you're kind of in a cycle of rumination, or like you said, getting stuck on that same thought, but also having an outlet. So for you, man, like having this outlet for music to be able to process grief, like how huge has that been for you in your life, man?
Yeah, I mean it's been you know pretty cathartic. I've always dealt with my emotions and just how I go through life in general with music. Like in my alone time, I'll sit down and I'll play the guitar just to, like, it helps me think and it helps me to process about things. But it's also a creative element too. I like creating. I like to tell stories. I like to write, and I like to create emotion, which I think is an interesting concept, because in writing music, you're able to dictate a feeling that you want somebody to feel, and they may or may not accept that feeling, but you're presenting that feeling, and you're putting it out into like the atmosphere, and they may hear that and process it completely different than the way that it was intended as well. And I think that's also cool. Um, like I also think that it's important to, go to counselors, talk to people. Even if you need to go to a counselor like one time, they will talk to you absolutely one time, and then you can definitely just use them as a place to talk about things that you're going through, and they'll offer some feedback or whatever. But then you know that you have that door that you can enter into, whenever you need to. And I think with men and guys especially, there's a stigma around going to therapy or talking to counselors, and I don't think that that stigma needs to exist, because it's a very good thing, to talk to people and to voice what you're going through, because when you internalize, all that does is it just creates this either a void, or it does the opposite where it creates this kind of explosion that's impending. And then within that, people get angry because they're not processing their emotions. They have too many emotions all at the same time, and so they're not dealing with things. Um, but yeah, it's so important just to talk about the things that you're going through, even if that's just writing it down and putting that thought to paper, and then maybe you crumple up that thought and throw it away and get rid of it. But you've removed that thought from yourself.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. Because yeah, there's and I think growing up, like and I have a great relationship with my parents, and we've always kind of kept the lines of communication open, even though obviously at times, like all relationships, there's times you don't get along or you have spats or whatever. But like that whole kind of like you just shove it down, rub some dirt on it as a dude, and honestly, like there's elements of that as I've gotten older, Jaren, that I think are good in terms of like, hey, there's a lot of good people in this world, but there are a lot of bad people too. There are going to be bullies. There are going to be people who try to, you know, get one past you,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah.
you got to kind of be able to develop thick skin and not take everything so personally, and also know how to protect yourself from that, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I mean, I don't advocate violence at all, so I don't want that to get misconstrued by anybody listening to this. But just saying, like, you're gonna come across adversity in your life, in your relationships, in the workplace, and so there is an element of that from like my youth that I do appreciate of like, because like I used to look like Dwight Schrute when I was in third grade. I had bifocals by the time I was 9. Like my eyes were like marbles, man. So now glasses are like a fashion statement. But when I was a little
Yeah.
growing up in the 90s, it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
four
Yeah.
eyes and all this stuff, that you'd hear. And I didn't deal with like a heavy amount of bullying. I dealt with it, a little bit when I was younger, and a couple of people in particular, which is probably something a lot of people can relate to. Like there's one or two kids from your childhood who are like, yeah, that dude, for whatever reason, that dude just had it out for me. But so long way of me saying that, like the kind of rub the dirt on it mentality, you do kind of need a little bit of that to develop thick skin. But as you
Hmm.
get
Yeah.
older, if you treat everything like that, like, hey, I just got to bury this, or I just got to shove it down, like you said, eventually that is going to explode because that energy is going to have to go somewhere. And
Yep.
some people sadly they turn to, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, or they blow up verbally, they're
Hmm.
verbal, and it's like, so having an outlet for it is important. So I'm happy to hear you say that, just as a fellow dude out here, that like, yeah, even if you only got to go to a therapist one time. And my therapist John is a great guy. He's helped me process a lot of awful, crap that I wouldn't have been able to really deal with on my own, or that even family and friends, like they can lend an ear. um Sometimes they can give you tough love, what you need, but having an unbiased third party that's
Yeah, and you always want to vet who you're talking to as well too. There's professionals that are like designed, like they've taken classes, and their job is to help you with wherever you're at, right? And then, but sometimes when you're talking to like your friends or whatever, like that advice is not always going to be good. And then it's also, like maybe it's not the best idea to share certain things with certain people, because it's not going to help you that much in the long term. And it might also, like you might be afraid of, how they're going to think of you after you've, shared some things that you're struggling with or whatever. You know, there's so many variables, and it's always just better just to seek out, a professional, somebody that you can, assuredly trust.
100%, man. Yeah, well said. Well, I'm happy to hear that you've had you that one that you share that perspective. Um, and especially for all the dudes who might listen to this and maybe, had that stigma of like, oh, I'm dealing with something, and if I talk about it, I'm a wuss or whatever. Nah, man, like you gotta, find a healthy way to deal with that. Exercise, if you're not a musician like yourself, or like you said, talking to a professional, all really important. But yeah, I mean, like the beautiful things the cold brings, dude. Like, how cathartic was this for you in terms of the writing process of this? And where did y'all record this? Did you record it at the same place that you were talking about, where you linked up with getting to know these guys, some of these guys?
So we recorded it with our buddy Dan Granger, and he has a studio that he runs out of his house in Denver, and I've known him forever, and he's recorded, most of my bands and most of my random one-off side project stuff, and he did an incredible job. It took us a really long time to nail down the guitar tone because it's so like heavy in a sense of like there's so much reverb and echo on everything that it was hard to mic up and get the tone correct so that it just didn't sound like washed out, you know. But yeah, he did an incredible job. I'd recommend Dan to everybody. Um, but yeah, the writing process was mainly just me kind of talking about the feeling of grief from some personal things in my own life, and then just processing through that, and then getting it out on paper. And then it's cool to see how other people have taken it as well too, because I like to be pretty vague in my writing. I don't want to talk specifically because I know that other people can benefit from it. The words have meaning to other people, and the words have meaning just on their own as well too. Once they're said and once they're in a song. I think my favorite lyric also from the album is "I'm the ghost that haunts me the most" as well. Um, and that one is in my mind kind of just like um, I always envision this little kid, and then he's like a ghost also, but then you have like this big ghost that's like following him around. It's kind of like a shadow that follows you, but is much more bigger and more terrifying than you. That's always attached to you and is following you around wherever you go. And that's kind of what that conveys. I talk about ghosts a lot in the album as well too, in different songs.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, I mean, not like funny like haha, but just like the fact of funny. I'm a clown and my hero music. Sorry, I had to do a quick little Joe Pesci, but just funny in the fact that that ended up that you said that's your favorite lyric too, because I actually wrote that one down, like I'm the ghost that haunts me the most. So like just mind vibes. But yeah, on Count Me Out, man. Like when I listened to the record, that one really stuck out to me a lot. And I think, like you mentioned, kind of leaving the lyrics open to interpretation of the listener. Like that's kind of how it registered with me. Like I get stuck in thought loops sometimes, like negative thought loops, and I'll just ruminate on it. And it's like kind of the way I've explained it is like, you're putting out a fire that doesn't exist sometimes with anxiety. And so that was kind of like how I interpreted that when I listened to that song of like, yeah, a lot of times I am kind of my own worst enemy. And it's kind of recognizing that and then giving yourself grace and trying to move past it. But yeah, it's a really good front to back listen, man. Like genuinely, I um really enjoyed this record. And I dig the reverb because even though I love like at heart, I guess you could say I'm a metalhead. I really like when you mentioned balance and composure, um, the intro riff to Reflection. Like sometimes I when I listen to that song, I'll
Yeah.
just I'll just rewind it. Like I'll start it
Yeah,
over.
it's
You know,
it's
just
so good.
cool. And that intro riff to I know I've mentioned it a few times, but that intro riff to Time, it kind of hit me in that way where it's like this is like I think the cool thing about reverb especially is it's I don't know, it kind of takes you somewhere. You know what I mean? Like when you listen to Reflection, and it's just kind of that floating like, and you're like, "Whoa, like I'm in it. Like I'm somewhere right now."
Yeah.
And when I heard that intro riff to Time on that snippet of the promoted post that you guys did for the record, I'm like, "Oh, this is taking me somewhere." So yeah, kudos, man. And that's only one of a few riffs. Like One Day, another one. Great song. Love that one. That's like I think the second track. Um, you guys close it out with Hand. Um, it's awesome, dude. Again, not there's not a question in there other than to say. And then Dry Bones, there was the demo. You guys, I think, did you have I think there was an acoustic version of that.
So yeah, so we did Retaliate acoustically on the Winter EP, and then we did it full band on this one, and then Dry Bones we kind of revamped a little bit as well too because that was a favorite from the EP, and we felt that it needed to not just have like a kind of live run through recording, but an actual like let's do it for real recording.
It sounded awesome, man. And I wanted to ask you too about the artwork. I feel like there's some records where it's like the name and the art are like they're like symbiotic, you know what I mean? Where it's like the name of the record and then you see the artwork and you're like that's like a visual representation of what this is. And the artwork on the beautiful things the cold brings, I feel like you guys like chef's kiss, you like knocked it out of the park with that in terms of the cover being for people who haven't seen it to describe it. It's in like a blue and white hue and there's these big trees and it looks like in a rural area, these big trees just kind of behind like this house and this barn. And it basically looks like kind of a winter morning. But the picture itself, like it almost looks to me like it could be like a sunrise on it. So the beautiful things the cold brings, I think it ties in great with the title. But what was that like with the artwork? Like, did one of y'all shoot that like that picture? Like how did that come about? Because I really think it's a beautiful physical representation of the album title.
Yeah, that was our drummer Ryan. He took that picture on his way to work one day. And it's like super close to where we live, maybe like 30 minutes away. Um, and we landed on the kind of blue hue that we were using kind of by accident. Um, I don't remember how we actually nailed it down, but it just like all things that just kind of happened. We were like, oh, okay, that's sick. And then same with our font. Like we had thought that it would look cool if we did like kind of a handwritten like pencil kind of thing. And then we just got a font that is handwritten. And that's kind of our go-to font now, which really kind of encapsulates everything. And then the pictures for like the singles are all pictures that either we've taken or, are from family members of ours and just capturing memories. Because in a way, a picture is in a sense permanent and it's a permanent moment in time, but it's not there anymore. Like that moment doesn't exist, but yet it's still there. And you can move that moment around and you can place it on your table. You can do whatever you want with that moment, with that memory, except press play. And that's the only thing um, that kind of encapsulates the feeling of the album as well.
That's a beautiful way to put it, man. I never thought about pictures in that way, but it's true. It's like, yeah, it's a moment in time and there's like, yeah, there's a there's a permanence and an innocence to it, but it's also like it's forever gone now too, you know. Yeah, it really turned out awesome, man. What's the reception been like so far? As we're talking, like this is gonna hit people's ears in early November, but as we're talking, we're a little shy of 2 weeks from this full album release. But what's it been like so far putting it out into the world, especially something that sounds like it was really vulnerable in terms of the themes of this album and surrounding grief. And thanks again for going into detail on that too, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. The reception has been really, really cool. It's just been exciting to see everyone's reaction to it. Some of the messages that we've gotten from people, how they've personally, connected with it, connected with the lyrics in their own way. It's really cool, and I feel really humbled and really special to, be a part of it. Um, and I also want to value, everybody's individual story. And, like words are just words until someone else puts meaning to them.
Yeah, it's making art and then it's one thing to do it for yourself, like like you said, when you're growing up and you're jamming or you're recording, and it's another thing to put it out in the world and expose it to everybody else, and even though it's like a cathartic thing, like it's like I know sometimes artists will be like, yeah, it's hard for me to pick like favorite songs of mine because they're like my kids almost. It's like somebody asking me like who my favorite kid is or who my favorite pet is. Like they all have meaning to me and they're all special, but it really is a beautiful listen, man. And I'm really glad that I came across you guys, dude, because like like you, I'm sure as a musician yourself, like when you really love music, you always have a hunger for more of it. Or even the guitar, like I wouldn't even classify as a novice guitar player, but like when I can figure out a riff or I stumble across something cool or a tone and I'm like, oh, that's cool, like that feeling is never, it never gets old to me, man. And it's the same thing for discovering new bands and like new artists, and so obviously you guys have been around for a few years, but I'm really glad I came across the material, man. I'm excited for you guys. And I guess just on that note, to put a button on it, Jaren, thank you again so much. Like, as far as the rest of the year, I know there's a great music scene out there in Colorado. Are there any plans to do some like live shows or to do some gigs in the new year?
Yeah, so we've got a couple shows on the horizon, November and then December, and we're looking at the new year. Um, we all kind of are tied into work a lot, so we probably won't tour in the near term future. We might, we'll see kind of what happens. But for right now, we're just trying to, make music, put it out there, see the response, and then, thank people for the response.
Well, I'm really excited for you, dude. And as far as like are you guys going to try to do any like physical copies or anything like that?
So we're doing a vinyl release with Brayburn Records. It's just one guy. His name's Derek, and he rules. He's my favorite guy in the Fort Collins music scene. Um, and yeah, other than that, we're just kind of shopping it out, seeing what's around, and hopefully we'll maybe make a CD or something like that, and then we'll have some like some merch runs as well too, like shirts and stuff.
Well, dude, this has been awesome, Jaren. Thank you again so much for your time and for my clumsiness with my power going out because I didn't have it plugged in. But it's just to get you out of here on this, man. And thanks again so much. And I know we kind of talked about it a little bit already in terms of, processing grief. And everybody, obviously, please go listen to the beautiful things the cold brings and follow Talking Point. But and again, not trying to turn you into a therapist or a doctor or whatever. And this shows for entertainment purposes, but anything that you want to pass along to anybody that might be going through some tough times or some grief right now in terms of things that have helped you.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing that kind of I've done in my personal life, one was when I was going through kind of a crisis in my life, talking to a counselor helped immensely. It doesn't have to be like a therapist, but just like a counselor, somebody that can counsel you. Very pivotal. And then the other thing that I would say is you should always have a mentor in your life, somebody who can, speak wisdom into your life, who can speak into, you know, the direction that you're going, how you're going, where you're going, how you're getting there, how you're doing, even, and just offering the guidance. If you don't have a mentor, seek one out. You'll see that you'll find somebody who can act as a mentor, whether they realize it or not. and then just learn everything you can from them for that period of your life.
I appreciate you sharing that, brother. Jaren, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to link up. I'm glad you guys did that promoted post so I could find you faster out here. And you have a new fan of the band, dude. And again, I'm a big fan. Both of the EP and also the beautiful things the cold brings, man. The record turned out great. It's a great front to back listen, and it's been really cool to get to know you a little bit better on here, man. So I'll put up the links in the podcast description, but let the people know where they can find Talking Point.
Yeah, yes, sir. Good talking to you as well, and hopefully, we can make it out to you sometime soon so we can hang in person. So we are talking X Point, literally everywhere. So all you have to do is just type in talking and then a little small X and then point.
Alrighty, dighty, there you have it. That was my conversation with Jaren Samples of Talking Point. Make sure you go follow these guys on Instagram at Talking X Point. The links to all of their music will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support my new friends in Talking Point. Once again, their new album, The Beautiful Things the Cold Brings, is out now, available everywhere you get your music. They've also got some cool merch coming. Right now, they do have a cool custom skate deck with artwork from the record that they partnered up with Ritual Skateboards and Brayburn Records. And as you guys just heard in that conversation, they're going to have vinyl coming. So once again, in the description is going to be the links to all of that you can go follow Talking Point. Again, Talking X Point on Instagram. What a conversation, man. Thanks again to Jaren for taking the time to speak with me. I was so grateful that he wanted to come on the show and gave me an hour of his time. And you guys didn't catch this, but at the end of the conversation, like normally I leave my computer plugged in during interviews, but like sometimes you got to let the battery drain down, right? Like you don't want to leave it plugged in all the time. And towards the end of the conversation, I realized I had forgotten to plug in my power cord. And then I went and I plugged it in, but I didn't plug it into the wall. So we started talking again, and then it cut out. But anyway, Jared, thank you for your patience. It all worked out, and we were able to put an appropriate button on the show. But again, man, I have a lot of appreciation for your music, for you as a vocalist, as a guitarist, and just as a dude, man, like as a person. It was so great to be able to have the discussion that we had, not only about music, but just about grief and mental health and exploration and especially as men to be able to talk about this stuff. And I probably need to stop prefacing so much. I've worked on not apologizing when I don't need to apologize, healing anxious attachment where my anxiously attached people out there. I digress. But being able to kind of, lift that stigma and understand that as a man, and everybody has different definitions of what masculinity is, I guess, and what it means to be a man. But to me, uh, central to it in my time on this planet is accountability, vulnerability, and honesty and kindness. Like those are all pillars of true masculinity to me. Like it's not being a robot. It's not bottling things up. It's not being the strongest, fastest, or smartest or wealthiest person in the room. Right? Like there's always failure in comparison. Whether you're male, female, however you identify sexually, like there's always going to be people that have things that you don't and vice versa. And so to me, masculinity is really about just those things that I said. And, it's not a wimpy thing to be vulnerable. It's not a wimpy thing to have emotions. And I think it's manly to be able to process those emotions, be they positively or negatively, in healthy ways. And, over the years, I have beat myself up a lot. Somebody told me about my anxiety, and somebody told me one time, Mike, you would never treat anybody else the way that you treat yourself. And that really hit home with me. Like nobody had really ever said it to me quite like that before. And so I've really worked on like not letting my failures or things that have happened in my past, mistreatment or, times where I felt unlovable or I felt unworthy or I even found myself self-sabotaging because I didn't feel good enough. Like, again, through therapy, like I said at the jump, therapy, exercise, having conversations like this, those have all have like really helped me get to a better headspace space. So I just want to say thank you to Jaren again for being open and articulate and just you're a poet, dude. Like I love this record. Shout out to everybody in Talking Point, man. But please go listen to the beautiful things the cold brings, y'all. I love it. And it's an awesome album. And if you're a skater and you want to get a dope skate deck, once again check out the links in the podcast description. And keep an eye for the forthcoming vinyl and other merch that Talking Point's going to be doing. And again, if you're just right now, whether you're up, whether you're down, happy, sad, uh, middle of the ground, you know what I mean? Just I see, you know what I mean? And you're just kind of going through the motions in life. Just I'm just for what it's worth, y'all, it gets better. And if you are going through a period of darkness right now, just know that it gets better. And again, know that you will never be too much for the right people. And anybody who makes you feel less than, anybody who makes you feel unworthy, anybody who doesn't bring out the best of you, for what it's worth, coming from this guy, they're not worth your time. And it doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't mean they're bad people. I'm not saying that. It just means that at the end of the day, like, the right people will bring out the best in you. And it doesn't mean they're going to bring out the best in you all the time. But anybody who makes you feel small, anybody who makes you feel unlovable, if you are a man and you find yourself in the company of people who, either, try to minimize your feelings or make you feel less than a man because you're working through emotions that you're not just drowning at the bottom of a bottle or the end of your drug of choice or bottling it up inside. And again, I'm not trying to be dismissive of anybody that's going through addiction issues because I know people personally who have struggled with those things. Right, but I'm just saying, like, there's objectively bad ways to handle negative emotions, and there's objectively positive ways to handle negative emotions, and I think we have gotten to a much better place, at least here in the States. I can't speak for anywhere else around the world, but we've gotten to a much better place about, not stigmatizing men who have mental health issues, and when you look at the epidemic that exists in the United States of men who kill themselves, it's terrible. It's awful. And you look at male suicide rates around the world. It's something that is bad. And just as somebody who who has gone through the things that I've gone through in my life, and I've had a great life, and I've got a great group of people around me now. But there have been times where been made to feel small, or that my feelings were minimized as a man, and it did make me feel good about myself. But I'm here to tell you, like, just because you have some emotions and you're a dude doesn't make you a wuss. And finding a healthy way to express them makes you more manly. Bottling them up and not talking about them is just it's that just builds pressure, and it eventually that pressure is going to explode. So I would encourage anybody out there, again, if you can afford it, if you have the resources, please seek therapy if you feel like you need it. I'm going to put a link in the podcast description that'll help you find therapy in your area if you need it. Don't be afraid to talk to your ride or dies. We all got them. So that's what I want to say to anybody, man. Like, just, love yourself, love other people. And to all the men out there who are struggling mentally, don't beat yourself up about it. It's, you're human. You're not a robot. And we weren't designed to bottle everything up and never speak about it and never find a healthy outlet for it, whether it's exercise, music, cooking, getting out in nature, volunteering in your local community, talking to somebody that you're close to. So don't beat yourself up. You are loved, you are worthy, you are worth it. All of you listening, regardless of sexual identity, all of you are loved, you are worthy, you are worth it. And that's what I want to leave you with. So thank you again to Jaren. Thank you again to Talking Point. Please go listen to the beautiful things the cold brings. Run up the numbers. If you're a skater, once again, get the skate deck. If you love vinyl like me, keep an eye out for the vinyl. The links are in the podcast description at Talking X Point. Keep the faith and be kind to one another and be kind to yourselves. Love you all. Courtesy of Jaren, here is the song Time from Talking Point featuring Silver and Gold. Peace.
flowers in the spring, so they bloom in the storm, so winter sings. You'll always have a reminder of the beautiful things the cold brings. But when the anchor of summer reminds you of when you were younger, your life thunder, keep the emotion along there. And being back at the top for the sake to remind. The clock was the fire, the days had to run. Continue this moment, so every time you can hit rewind. So every time you can hit rewind. So memories like dreams in the summer sun, but you'll never see the good that they'll be. When autumn comes and winter's gone, this will never last. Just fleeting things, like seasons pass, it's all the growing things. Tomorrow starts without you. Your body's in the ground. Don't gather regret. Nothing was ever permanent. There's moss on the stone, and death has been made known.